is Bobby Bonanno, and I am president of your Fire Island Pines Historical Preservation Society, started almost 10 years ago, and here we are. Today we're here to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Beach. For those of you that don't know what Beach is, it was a party benefit that all others that have followed, including the Pines Party, that are modeled from. It was the years 1978 and 79, and these people sitting in front of us, Scott Bromley, France Joli, Ron Martin, and Walter Ross, would all play a role in the party that made history. Its beginnings were all about a fire truck, but as Ron Martin wrote in his remembrance, it was more than a fire truck. So let's start at the beginning. I'm going to start with you, Ron. Can you speak a little bit about the Pines 1978, the straight and gay interaction of the community?
In 1978, you said?
Yes.
Okay, in 1978, I would say the majority of the Pines was beginning to, the demographics were beginning to shift, but the majority of the homeowners were probably still straight. And, but a lot of younger guys were starting to rent homes, and many had started out down in Cherry Grove and migrated here to this community. And in 1978, I was elected to the board of directors of the Property Owners Association, and I was the first young gay man that had ever served on the board. And it was a little bit of a shock to me. I mean, I really felt like an outsider almost. But I felt like it was time that we had that we started getting more involved in the community. Those of us who were young gay men at the time. And we had started buying houses down here. So I guess in terms of the split, it was maybe 50-50 at that time. But it really hadn't been all that many years since the Pines started out as a straight community, and everybody knows that history of kind of the open warfare that was going on when the Pines was wanting to be a, quote, family community and trying to resist the changes that were occurring. So I think it was beginning to change. The gay guys were, and a few lesbians were starting to get more actively involved in the community. In terms of the fire department, I mean, Walter could probably speak to this a little better because he went back before me. There were only just a handful of gay men who were volunteer firefighters at that point. It changed after Beach, but I think that we had never really come together as a community before Beach, and had certainly never worked together on something. And that was what was really seminal and landmark about the party and the event, that it was the first time that the gay community and the straight community kind of united for a common cause, to buy a new fire truck. And so it really changed, the Pines forever. Because I think going forward after that, there was less tension between the straight community, the gay community. Suddenly we all felt like we were one community. And so the significance of the event on this community was tremendous, and it was lasting.
I want you to talk a little bit about the 1978 and the culture, just as Ron spoke about it, but from your perspective, the gays coming in, and what was that like for you?
Well, just to give you a little background, my family didn't come from the area, so I won't understand where I come from. I was brought here as a guest when I was 9 years old. By the time I graduated high school, I got involved in the area, and I've been working with gay and straight people. Not that I really had this differentiation of the situation. More of course, I'm not good at this stuff. But anyway, working in the area, you work for everybody. There were a lot of celebrities that you worked for all the time, and it was exciting and things were motivating. And I guess I became a member of the fire department in 1978, and a contractor working out here. I started my business in '70, so by that particular time, I was gearing up with everything. And I really didn't have this differentiation between gay and straight. I just recognized people for who they are and their, so what they represent. And that's basically, it's always been that way. I've never been any different than that. I always, I don't know, that's how I've always been. I haven't been any different. But I did notice when they had the first party in '78 on the beach, I thought that was pretty exciting. And then we were looking to raise money for the fire truck, and it was incredible listening to John and Jim. Yeah, Jim Bean and John Mack. So they came up with this brilliant idea, and it was like all of a sudden like, well, we have a way of raising money, and this is great, and this one can do that, and that one can do that, and Scott got involved in it, and then the drawings were coming out, and then other contractors were working with other contractors, which was like, completely off the wall. And the next thing you know, it's like, this whole thing is happening. And, to sit there and like I said, to stand there and be part of it, it was exciting. It just kept going. And then I can tell you that the last couple of days before the event started, we were working around the clock. I remember working 48 hours straight, throwing the platforms together, for France Joli to sing on. And other funny things going on behind the scenes was, at that particular point, I was a poor man, and I had one house on the beach, and I rented my house to Steve Goodfriend, who was the owner of the pavilion at the time, and she stayed in my house with her mother, and so I don't know if she remembers, but at the time I remember, she was this little kid, a 25-year-old man, and it's like, wow, check all these people that are staying there, and then to actually see her sing out on the stage, it was absolutely over the top. And see them, being part of it. So, great.
Well, let's go back to the idea that started this. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about Sunrise and how that came about. Sunrise was the precursor.
So everybody wants to throw a party, right? Everybody loves to, everybody wants to throw a party. So we had this house, we were in the TV house, there were 6 of us. One of the kids was Colin Birch, who was the design director for,
Boardwalk.
See, that's how I used to sing, And he said, listen, I have all these bamboo poles. And I said, let's throw a party. Why don't we throw a party in front of the house at the beach? And so we decided to throw this party. Anyway, so we decided that we were going to have this party. And those were the days when people were throwing parties. The night that we threw the party of Sunrise, the Star Wars party was farther up the beach, right? So we decided, okay, we'll start this party at midnight. And it'll go till sunrise, and that's what we call it, Sunrise. Right? And since we lived in the TV house, the invitation we sent out to just a few friends had the TV logo and a few things like 8 o'clock the bride wore black and selected shorts, and then 8 o'clock Pines Needles, and at 10 o'clock it was Guess Who, and midnight it was Sunrise. So this was the invitation, right? So it was the time when Anita Bryant was so anti-gay, and she was the spokesperson. the spokesperson for oranges, Florida oranges, right? And so, you know, Sunrise was the title of our party, and so we were going to serve tequila sunrises, but we served them with grapefruit juice. And also there was this great chocolate factory in Soho, and we ordered 50 dozen chocolate chip cookies. That at the end of the party, 7 naked boys on silver trays delivered 50 dozen chocolate chip cookies. And it was really great because one of the Hemingway girls was there, and also the I have one memory, let's sell that story.
On the subject of the house parties, though, you and Ron, would you say house parties were more popular than going out at that point?
I think it was like 50. Oh, you know what? So, if you threw a house party, you eventually went out later anyway. You know? Some house parties were fun and everything, but eventually you went to the Ice Palace or you went to the Pavilion.
Let's pass that to Ron, because I want Ron.
Well, I think also too the houses weren't as large back then, so you couldn't, you were more limited in space. You could only, if you had a house party, you might have 100 to 120 people, and there weren't the houses with the big decks and lots of space to entertain in. So, and like Scott said, most occasionally, I mean, we had an annual party every year on Labor Day weekend that went all night, but most were over by 12:30, 1 o'clock, which was plenty of time for everybody to go down to the Ice Palace in Cherry Grove, because in the 70s, we didn't stay here at the Pines at night. We all trekked down to the Ice Palace every Saturday night, because it was a much larger space, and that's just where everybody went.
So in the end result was that the party that we threw called Sunrise, 2,000 people appeared. And so Jimmy Meade and John Mack from the fire department came to myself and Robin Jacobson, who was my work partner, and said, listen, can you design a party for us that we can raise the money for the fire department to buy a new pumper? And I said, we sure can.
Okay, France.
Yes.
16 years old. The biggest question, what were you told before you got here?
I was told that it was very different from New York City. I was told that it was a gay community, and because I came from a family where my family was very open about that, and there was never any negative things that were said about homosexuality, so for me it was, okay, this is going to be a bunch of gays, and so, you know, let me experience it. And the record company was very, because I was so young, they were very protective, but as the day went along, I was just fine. Yeah.
So this question is for Walter and Scott. What were some of the challenges in building the vision of these designers? What were the challenges in them explaining their vision to you? So was there a frustration between the two, especially because it was still very new? So, you know, here was somebody from Bonwood Teller trying to tell you what they wanted when you're used to building houses, not discos.
I really didn't find it to be difficult to do. It was different, so it was motivating. When you read it, when you were looking at the plans, it was the challenge of how fast we're going to assemble it and how fast are we going to disassemble it. So everything was talked about. Instead of building, you know, pilings in the ground and making a regular deck, we laid some of the deck boards flat, and then we screwed everything on top, and we nailed it on top, and it was just, you know, it was fun and motivating and challenging, and I think it was, the way it started out in the beginning, it wasn't as big, and then we watched as it changed, and the ticket sales were like crazy, and we were watching one set of plans and another set of plans, and then watching, you know, Scott drawing the pilings. That was the thing that was challenging, how we were going to get 30-foot pilings in the air, in the ground, standing up. That was my fun part.
Actually, the posts were, we decided that we would try to use every nominal type of building material that could be reused, that the contractors could reuse, because we were like, there was no budget, you know. And so these poles were 30 feet tall, but they were really 2x6s nailed together. And we built the dance floor out of 2x6s, and we built her darling platform out of 2x4s, and it was really like, and we made nominal dimensions like 10 feet, 12 feet, 16 feet, 14 feet, so that they could be reused in different things. I have to tell you that at sound check the day of, and it's actually tomorrow is actually the 40th anniversary. It was sunset July 7th through sunrise July 8th. That is really the 40th anniversary. So, me being a smartass and being a Canadian and everything, I'm talking to her mother in French. We had the best time.
But Ron, in your personal account, you speak of other performers considered. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the dream was Donna Summer. She was in the, and we were, because of Howard Merrick was really in charge of the music, and he was a close personal friend of ours. He spent weekends at my house a lot, previous summers and all. At that point, he not only was one of the top DJs in the city, but he was working in A&R for Casablanca Records. And Casablanca was really #1 at that point. Donna Summer, of course, was on that label. And we were very optimistic that, because Casablanca had agreed to be our music sponsor, we were very hopeful that we could get her. And at first, it seemed that there was a possibility that she was going to be in Atlantic City performing that night. And so we were exploring the possibility of bringing her here by helicopter and having her land on the beach at sunrise and perform. But as it turned out, she was on the Bad Girls tour. The Bad Girls album had just, had been released. And in fact, at the time of Beach, at that moment, she had 2 songs in the top 3 on the Billboard chart. The first solo artist to ever do that. She had Bad Girls and Hot Stuff, and but she couldn't. She was supposed to perform. The tour had her in Vegas at the MGM Grand that Saturday night. So it was a huge disappointment for us, because that was really our dream, because she was at the peak of her career at that moment, and sort of represented that whole era. And the other kind of funny and interesting story that a lot of people don't know, with a very close friend of ours who spent time in the house, and was actually on the committee, on one of the committees, was a guy named Mackie Macmillan, who was originally from Louisiana. And he had become very friendly with Ethel Merman when she used to come down to visit Walter McElhenney in Louisiana. And so when he moved to New York, he became her walker. I mean, he took her out socially at night and went everywhere. They're very, very close friends. So Ethel, we all knew Ethel. And of course, she was legendary on Broadway. Well, at that point, everybody, the disco craze had taken over, and everybody wanted. Ethel decided she needed to be current and trendy and do a disco album. So there actually was the Ethel Merman disco album. It probably maybe sold all of a dozen copies, I don't know. But, oh yeah. Well, she was, so it was coming out being released at about the time, that summer. And we said, okay, well, it'd be great to have Ethel Merman come and you know, perform, and you know, I mean, she's kind of legendary. And so it was a Friday night. She had just, Mackie had an acetate that he brought out on a Friday night, and we decided, well, we're not going to listen to this until after dinner. And we were all excited and in anticipation. And after dinner, we sat down, put it on, and we kind of looked at each other and just burst out laughing. I mean, it was her vocals were there as if she was on Broadway, and somebody had put, you know, a disco beat behind it, and the music and the vocals were not connected in any way. And so we just kind of laughed and shook our heads and said, no. I mean, in retrospect, it probably would have been it would have been memorable to have her perform there. And I'm trying to think, was there
Village people.
Oh, the Village People, yeah. I mean, you know, the Village People, we didn't take too seriously. I mean, they were huge. I mean, they were Casablanca, and we knew some of them personally, and they came out here every weekend. And Glenn the biker was a personal friend, and he stayed at my house a number of times. And Randy the cowboy, you know, was out. And the weekend of the party, they were always hanging out at they knew the Ritchie family, of course, and so they came over. But it just didn't, for some reason we took them, we thought they were kind of a joke, and I mean, we got them huge, but they were huge. And they really were representative of that era, and it was a mistake probably for us to not ask them to perform. And they were with Casablanca, so I mean, we wouldn't have had any problem getting them to do it. And I think they kind of felt a little left out because the Ritchies were performing and they weren't. The Ritchie family was sort of the female version of the Village People in a sense that they were a girl group, and they had started out I think I can remember in 1975 their big hit was a remix of Brazil, which was a song from the 30s, and we danced all summer to that in Guy's Palace to that. The following year, they had like a really big hit. I remember that it was called The Best Disco in Town. It was a medley. And but by 1979, the original three girls had changed, and it was, so there were three new girls that were part of the Ritchie family at that time, Vera, Jackie, and Dodie. And they were perfect for the moment because gay guy, I mean, we had been dancing to their music for quite a number of years, and they were accustomed to performing before gay crowds and gay clubs, and so they knew they had all of the choreography down, and they had the costumes, and that night they, you know, were in lame and stiletto heels, and they were a creation like the Village People of Jock Morales, so he had sort of retooled them by 1979, the year of Beach, to be more sexually provocative and more campy. And their album that was out at that point was Bad Reputation. And the cover of that album was the three of them, and they were they were in leather and with five muscle guys, and there was a Harley and a Doberman, and so it was a whole new kind of image that they were promoting for that group at that point. But it would have been great in retrospect again to have had not only them but the boys from the Village People perform.
As you can see, Ron has an incredible memory, and I want to let you know that the book that I wrote would not be possible if it were not for that man. I consider it an honor that I'm able to document this so people here can have it in their home, and a young person says, "What's Beach?" Read it. This is our history. Ron and Scott, did you find the community skeptical at first about the idea of beach?
We had to sell it to them a little bit, but since we had designed this party on the beach that just swelled into 2,000 people, some of the locals were even at the party because it was going on at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I think that I had just designed Studio 54, so it had a little bit of a reputation, and Robin Jacobson, my partner, we had done some really smart stuff in New York City. And when Jim Mead and John Mack came to us and said, listen, we'd like you to design this party, there was a little bit of panache there already. So we did think about it a lot, what we wanted to do and what we wanted to produce. And so there were 80 volunteers. It was an amazing event because it took a year to produce, but Ron and our good friend Fern Malice, who everybody must know, who's invented New York's fashion week, right? We were great pals, and Ron and Fern were the PR guys, and they were really good in soliciting lots of people from the press, and so when the event happened, we decided there was going to be, that we would limit it to 3,000 tickets, right? And 3,000, well, we had this party that was 2,000, but 3,000 seemed enormous. And we finally decided that 3,000 was the limit, and then it became like a war. Everybody wanted a ticket, right? So I think I've drifted from your question, but you know, that's what happens when you get to be young.
Well, it wasn't so easy.